My name is Bjorn Wansink. I'm from the University of Utrecht. I'm very pleased to give a workshop here in Korea. And it will be an active workshop, so no lecture. I am a history teacher, a teacher educator and a researcher, and I work for the University of Utrecht but also for Euroclio. This is the city I live. It's called the city of Utrecht, and this is the Dom Tower. It's built in the 16th century. I work for Euroclio in different countries. For example, this is me 3 months ago in Kyrgyzstan. So we have a couple of learning goals. First is learning about historical thinking, learning about active historical thinking pedagogy. Learn some practical skills to activate historical thinking. And we learn something about multiperspectivity in history education. So, the first question is, what is historical thinking? So, what do you do when you think about history? It is a very abstract question, and a lot of researchers around the world are thinking about it, and it's very difficult to define. That's why we need your help. Okay, we call this a placemat. It is divided in different parts, and this is 5 different parts. You can write your own name in one of those parts. Do not use the middle. First, we think for yourself what is historical thinking and write some words in your own part. Are there any questions? Then we have 3 minutes to do it. Any words you associate it. Write in Korean, it's okay. So, I want you to write a definition of historical thinking in the middle of the placemat when discussing also the different answers of the different participants. I will discuss the content later. First, I will tell about the activity. I use this activity in class with my students. For example, what are important events during the Cold War? They write their own name here and then all the events. At the end of the lesson, I take the placemat, and I can see what every student knows. Also, they think for themselves, because first they have to write in their own place. And then they have to discuss, and for example, take the 2 most important events and put them in the middle with an argument. We call it cooperative learning, and it's a very easy activity you can apply for many different content. I hope you use it. Okay, this is a very simple definition of historical thinking. On the one hand, historical thinking is knowing history, facts, dates, and stories. On the other hand, it's also doing history. You have to think over history, give meaning to history. I already heard a very good example of critical thinking. Other examples are historical contextualization, ask questions, use argumentations, use concepts like change and continuity, and I also heard here multiple perspective, be reflexive of multiple perspectives. In the Netherlands, teachers really balance between knowing history and doing history. This is a model which I use in my teaching to teachers. We learn our children and our students in the Netherlands that there are different positions to look at the past. The first position might be that what students read in their history books exactly reflects the past. Then students might evolve to subjectivists, which means there are different sources and historians and other people will interpret the different sources, which means everything is truth. We don't believe that. The last position is that there are different sources and people look at these different sources differently, but we have criteria to interpret the different sources. For example, I use when over 100 years, a historian will find only this bottle, this paper, and this pen. And you have to reconstruct this meeting. Well, this person and she will write the same history. When we find only the first translate, when we find the bottle, the paper, and the pen, and that's all you have, and you have to write something about this meeting, nothing more. Do you know much about the event? So, if you have to write a story, and you have to write the story, will they write the same story? No, probably not, because everybody has to interpret. That's what I tell my children in school as well. But when I also have videotape and transcriptions, maybe the story will become more truthful. Then I ask my students if this person hates me, this person likes me, and they have the same sources. Will they write the same story? Probably not. That's a very simple way to explain historical literacy. So we have to be aware of who's writing the historical narrative, on which sources the narrative is based on, what type of argumentation is used. When you do that, you are doing history. We're going to do history right now. Not history yet. Activity. 3 types of fruit. 2 belong together, 1 goes out. I give 1 example. The orange and the mandarin are orange. The apple is green. Please, another example. Okay, I think you understand the activity. 2 belong together, 1 goes out. Please, in your own group, discuss. Okay, you now know the activity. Try to make this activity 3 Korean person, 1 goes out, 2 belong together. Make a one for your own history. Maybe we can try 1 of the 3 names of 1 group. So 1 group will say 3 names, the other groups will have to guess who goes out, who belong together. I hope you will use the activity in your classroom. I will give each group an envelope with a couple of photos, and they have to put the photos in the good temporal position. So turn over the photos. These are in English, but you also have the translation. And the year is on the back. Okay, the next activity is you have 2 post-its. On these 2 post-its, you write 2 important events during the Cold War. 1 on this post-it and 1 on this post-it. It can be events that are on the photos, but it can also be another event which you think is very important. In the Netherlands, students have to learn different events. Most of the students find it very boring. But what I do, I just make all these different photos of the events or pictures or paintings, put them on small papers, and I play this game with them just to put them on order. What makes this very strong is that you can do it multiple times. And when you do it multiple times, then students will remember. We go on to the next activity. You have to draw this picture on the back of the paper. A smiley happy, a smiley sad. Okay, now put the 2 dates on this line. First day of the 2 events. This 1 event over here maybe. Now we are gonna imagine an average American person, an average Russian person. Was this American or Russian person happy or sad during the event? If the Russian person was very happy, you can draw here. If the American people was sad, you draw here. Please do it for both events. But I also want to hear an argument. First, give the answer, the event, and then the Russian and the American perspective with an argument. What type of activity do you trigger in the student's mind with this activity? I think that students must have a very good idea of the event to imagine themselves how it was for those people in that time. So you have to know facts, dates, and so on. And you have to think from different perspectives. The biggest danger of this activity is that students think from the current perspective, but they have to recontextualize the past. But in the argumentation with the students, this becomes very clear and you can correct students. It is also a quite easy activity to show multiple perspectives. You can do it with many periods and many different events. So I want you to make an instruction with this activity for a Korean event. So 2 different groups and 1 event. They have to make, like I said, this is an activity about the Cold War with 2 groups, Russian from the Soviet Union. Now we did the instruction with the Cold War and Russian and American, but there are also different groups. Very simple example is North Korea, South Korea, but I want something from more far past. When I do these activities, it is very important that you can translate it into your own context. So first you can do the placemat with Korean history. You can do the odd one out with Korean history. You can do the photos with Korean history. And then you can do, of course, this activity about historical empathy also with other examples. Thank you very much for your attention.